Okay, guys, bear with me. I'm trying to get ready, and I'm like seriously sidetracked here, and I am going to be late if I don't finish. But I wanted to talk about some stuff and clarify a few things from my last video because I felt really bad that you guys thought I was talking about somebody in particular. And here, I just want to let you guys know I don't like calling out people. I think it's rude, and I am very particular about how I discuss things, and I don't ever like to really use names of people. I don't like to talk about people directly. I think it's just rude, right? And I don't like doing that in real life either. So, and I hope people don't do that about me. So I would like to be as polite as possible, right? But there's not one person in particular that I was talking about in the video about taking advice from single people. And I need to reiterate and kind of clarify what I was talking about, because sometimes I talk and I think you guys are in my mind. Like, I'm like, they know what I'm talking about, but I really didn't clarify or give you more information for you to be on the same page as me. I'm just like talking to talk, and you guys are like, what is going on? You know, I am so confused right now. What is this girl talking about? And let me just specify the kind of things that annoy me when these people were giving advice. This is the kind of advice I meant for you not to take. When you are a single person and there's other single people who are, first of all, incredibly young, okay? Like, and I'm talking about like, and sorry guys, I know this is really weird. I'm like, and they're really, okay. I'm sorry. I have to get ready. I'm trying really hard to get ready on time. And I really want to talk to you at the same time. It's horrible. And this is probably not very polite, but you guys will be okay. Anyways, when they're really, really, really young, like in their early 20s, okay, and they have not had any real life experience besides partying and one night stands, okay, those kinds of people. That's what I'm talking about. Now, if there's young people who have just like been through it, and there are some, believe me, I know there are. I've got a student right now that's been through the ringer, and they could give you all sorts of wisdom on what to avoid, okay? Now, as far as me taking advice from them about what kind of man I should look for, I think I would take it with a grain of salt. And the reason why I say this is because they have a very negative viewpoint on men right now. And I don't think that mentality is productive in seeking a relationship, because they are broken and they need to heal before they can move on and be successful in a relationship. And I truly, truly believe that it is very bad to get out of a very toxic and bad relationship and jump right into another relationship. There is a lot of science behind this, okay? When you break up with someone, you're literally going through what's called like a brain break. It's not really your heart breaking. It feels like your heart is breaking, but your heart could actually break. We'll go into that later if you want. But you guys know me. I have a science background, so I know about some of this stuff. But you have this relationship you're in. You're getting all these endorphins, and oxytocin is long-term. And let's say you've been with somebody for a long time, and then you break up. You go through literal withdrawals. It feels like similar to how a drug addict feels when they're losing their drug of choice. Same thing happens when you're leaving a relationship. And when you're going through this stage, you can be very sporadic in your mind and the way you think and your actions. You might even make bad choices. Sorry, my son is in the background. I can hear him every now and then. But I watch these podcasts, and like, here are some of the things I've heard these people say. One guy said that all women nowadays are just a bunch of hoochie mamas. Okay, he didn't say that, but he said something along those lines, much actually meaner, and that we're really just looking for someone to take care of our children that we've already had with other men. Now, I took offense to this. I personally took offense to this, guys, because I was a single mom and I was not looking for someone to take care of my daughter. That is not what I was looking for at all. I was a single mom going to school, trying my best to work a full-time job and go to school and get over the trauma in my past relationship that I had with my ex, which was a very abusive and horrible relationship that I literally had to move from one state almost 3,000 miles away to get away from him. Incredibly awful situation to be in. And that went on for years, guys. I stayed in that relationship for a long time. And guess what? I stayed in that relationship for a long time because of my religious background and convictions. I was raised Catholic, and I felt like it was my duty to stay with somebody who was incredibly abusive. Now, I am not saying that you can't take advice from somebody who has left a situation like that. Obviously, that's not the advice I'm talking about, but you guys don't know that, right? You don't know that. I didn't say that, so let me clarify. With these young people who give advice, another one, let me give an example, was talking about, she said, oh, okay, all guys are basically just a bunch of losers and they don't want to support women and they don't want to take care of their children and they don't want to work or make money and they just expect, sex all the time. And I just think that while that may be true for some men, I do not think that all men are that way. Just like I don't think that all women are gold diggers, okay? Just like I don't think that all women are hoochie mamas, okay? I don't think that we can put every single person into one category. And I think that if we do that, if we get into these repetitive things where we're just name calling and picking on the opposite sex all the time, that we can get into these echo chambers that are really not good because you tend to want to or gravitate to the things that make you comfortable. But that's also how you end up in an echo chamber. You have to be willing to listen to other points of view and to see things from a different point of view, which is what I had to do when I started dating again. And let me just tell you, dating for me was misery. It was absolute misery. I could tell you guys so many different stories of what I got myself into. I got really depressed while I was dating. And I almost married a gay guy, So there's that. And, we get into these situations. But here's the thing, guys. I don't regret the choices I made, okay? I don't regret it because I learned from each and every experience that I went through, even the bad, especially the bad, okay? But with my ex-husband, I learned what I did not want in a relationship, and I learned to avoid it. Like, if I saw even the hint of aggression in a man, I'm sorry, but it was done, If I did background checks, okay, there's that. So I have a daughter, so that's me. I did background checks. And if the guy wasn't okay with that, then sorry, we can't go any further. I need to know that you're a decent human being and that you haven't committed crimes, because I actually had that issue in my past relationship. So it's it's difficult, but listening to some of these, it's not like the women who, there was one woman that the person had said in the comments, and she's been through life. She's had experiences. So obviously she's talking from a point of experience of what not to do. But like I said, if she's not in a functioning, healthy relationship, would I take her advice as far as seeking the kind of man I'm looking for? No, because she's going to be looking for a unicorn. And I hate to say it, but unicorns don't exist, right? And it's the man unicorn or the woman unicorn doesn't exist because we're people and we're fallible and we are broken. All of us. And some people are like, oh, no, I'm not broken. I'm perfect. No, you're not. We're all broken. We all fall short of the glory of God. And he says that in the Bible, okay? And when you realize, okay, I'm a broken human, I have these issues I need to fix, and you start seeking God, I truly, truly believe that you're going to see things differently from a different point of view. I hated men for a while. After my ex-husband, I had such a negative and horrible viewpoint of men. I thought that they were horrible. And I didn't think that there were any good men that existed. I thought that all men were horrible. I had seen it with so many men. I have such bad experiences with men. And I just thought they're all the same. They're all the same. And, there's nothing different out there. And you can't tell me any other, there's nothing you could tell me that would make me change my mind. Okay? But I will say this. I hated men so much, I almost ended up being with a gay man. So, and I'll tell you guys that story a different time. But that didn't work out. It didn't work out because I couldn't deal with the porn addiction he had. And even though he wanted to have a marriage and a family and pretend like we were a perfect family, I couldn't do it. I couldn't be in a relationship with someone who would never find me physically appealing, right? And would never want to be with me in that way. It wasn't something I could do. So that relationship ended. And when I met my husband, he was not what my single friends, right? My single friends, which we were all young and stupid and pretty toxic, all of us. And we were in our own little echo chamber and we all hated men. And they didn't like my husband when I met him. They thought he was ugly. And yes, that's very shallow and horrible, but they did. They thought he was ugly. And they were mean about his weight because he was so skinny. And he's not anymore, but they were really cruel and shallow, and they didn't like his viewpoints. And here's the thing, guys. I knew that I was in my own echo chamber. And I knew that if I didn't get out of it, I was never going to have the life that I wanted, which was what I have right now. I never would have imagined I would ever have the life I have, where I had a home, okay, where I had a job that was what I liked, where I had a husband who actually wanted to be around me and love me and take care of me and wanted to raise a family with me and is kind to me and doesn't treat me like absolute dirt, which I was so used to. But I had to get out of the echo chamber. I had to stop listening to people who hated the opposite sex. I had to stop joining in on that negative viewpoint and that negative banter and the toxic mentality. Even though we were funny and even though some of the stuff was so relatable, many women would relate, I had to stop taking that in. Because as I was taking that in, I was putting that on to men. When I would meet them, I was putting on thank God, my husband and me, we were like two titans clashing, right? Because I was a misandrist and he was a total meninist or whatever they call those. And we both were brutally honest with each other. And here's one thing I will say. Honesty is so important from the beginning. From the beginning. And if you can't find someone who's willing to be honest with you, brutally honest and honest with you, then you can't grow. And I am personally willing to accept those uncomfortable truths. After I started seeking God, I'm going to say this got better because I was willing to accept his point of view, which I never would have been willing to accept in my old mind frame. Okay, I was super left. I hated men. I mean, it's like I had this horrible viewpoint, and it was so eye-opening and so important that I get out of that type of mind frame and hear it from people who had dealt with the pain, who were mature. Okay, maturity is super important to look for when you're listening to somebody who's giving advice. It's very important to find somebody who is mature, who is emotionally stable. Okay, if you're taking advice from someone who is not emotionally stable, guys, they flip-flop all the time. They go all over the place. They're tossed to and fro. Okay, but I will just say, I'm glad that I was able to catch it myself. When I was younger, I was able to say, okay, I don't need to take advice from these people. They're all broken and they're all miserable. We're doing nothing with our lives. We're all just partying all the time. And, you know, these horrible relationships we're in, we're left broken and alone and sad. And like all of the people, even guys, I had these friends that were gorgeous. I mean, they were gorgeous and they had these social media accounts and they're just like so out there and everybody thought that they were just so perfect. They're like, oh my gosh, I just wish I could be like you, strong, independent woman. But they were like the most miserable women. They were. And I think men, too, can be that way as well. Like, they're putting on this show for you, like, I'm so happy and I have all this knowledge and I know all these things and I'm like so super, you know, like, here's what I think you should do if you want to have a successful relationship. And if he's like this, then he needs to go. And it's like, that mentality can be so toxic. And I think it's so important that if you really are seeking someone, okay, and you're really wanting to find someone who can grow with you. I know that some of you guys are not going to want to hear this, but, okay, you need to grow yourself first, and you need to be mature enough to handle things that challenge your viewpoint, and maybe stop being so negative about the opposite sex. Okay, not all women are hoochie mamas and trying to take your money. Okay, not all women are like that, and not all men are going to beat you and hurt you, which is what a lot of women have issues with. And I'm sorry, men, but that's the truth. A lot of women have dealt with physical abuse, emotional abuse. Okay, and I'm not saying that men haven't dealt with this from women as well, because they probably have. But it is very common to meet women who have been broken down from a young age, too, because that's when guys get us. They get us when we're young, all right? I know, I was there, okay? But I think it's important to look at the kind of people that you're taking advice from. And I personally don't believe that it's good to take advice from these young people who are like in their 20s sitting around a microphone and just dogging the opposite sex. And they're saying, oh yeah, and you can always tell when a woman does this, and then you know that she's just gonna be like blah, and like if she wears a necklace around her neck, you know what that means. I mean, like, I'm sorry, but don't take that as advice. That is like the worst kind of people that you can take advice from. And like, same for the women that are out there that are like, oh my gosh, if he's not buying my nails for me and doing my hair and buying me all this expensive stuff and giving me all these things, then he can just go on, because that's not what I need in my life, right? There's more to human beings. And when you mature and you're looking for someone and you're ready to settle down and you want something real, you have to be vulnerable. you have to be honest, and you have to be smart. If you can't identify things that would be potentially bad, okay, but also if you can't identify when to give someone a chance, okay, you are an adult. You have to learn how to weigh decisions and to use, and I would say use your discernment, but not everybody has it. This is why it's so important that I feel like you should find God, because I had really bad discernment in my youth because I didn't have God. Not the way I needed him. I didn't listen to him. Not the way I should have. But as I got older, it became easier to discern and to say, this guy's potentially bad news. Okay? And also life experience. Life experience. Guys, if you've been through abuse with someone who is horrible to you, you obviously know what to watch out for. Now, if you continue to go into those abusive relationships, that's something you need to work on in here, because there's something there. I've watched women do that before. I have seen my own mother, okay, go into abusive relationship after abusive relationship. And there, at some point, I think that there's something deeper rooted going on there. It is like a trauma that has happened. And it almost feels like they don't feel loved unless they're going through abuse, unless they're literally fighting someone. It's like, I don't know, but it's toxic. It's toxic. And at that point, I'm sorry, you got to get therapy. Some people won't admit that, though. Some people will never get therapy. I know women who will never, ever stop doing the toxic things that they do because they don't want to take accountability for their own actions and say, these are the toxic behaviors that I am attracted to, that I keep going to. And same thing for men. Same thing for men. I've watched my dad go through it for years with his own, it's abuse. And it's like there's some sort of addiction there where they have dealt with abuse for so long that they can't feel love unless they're getting abused. It's really sad. But anyways, my advice is not for everybody, guys. I'm just going to say that right now. I could talk about this stuff forever. Okay, I could talk about so many different things. And I would always have an opinion for something because I always have an opinion. But that doesn't mean that I'm always right either. So let me just put that out there. I'm not always right. These are the things that have worked for me. These are the things I've noticed in my own life. But it doesn't mean that that's the way that it works in everybody else's life. You know? Oh, here's another thing. One of the women I work with, okay, she was talking about relationships today. And this is just an example of somebody I wouldn't take advice from, right? So she immediately starts telling me about her whole life story, which I always think it's interesting when your coworkers overshare. I used to be that way. I don't do that anymore. But I think that when you're at work, you should really not do those things. You should not overshare about your personal life. People at work are not your friends, even though people like to think they are. If I were to leave that job today, would that person stay in contact with me long term? No. Okay. They don't pay my bills. They don't need to know about all my stuff. So, but she starts telling me about all the things that are going on with her relationship. She's got 5 children. And she was married to this guy, and they decided to be poly because she doesn't believe in Jesus. She's really anti-Christ. She hates him. She made it very clear to me today. I did not talk about Jesus. I thought it was really, this always happens. Every time I get around people, they automatically start talking about how they do or don't love Jesus. And I didn't bring it up at all. She just brought it up, and she was like showing me her little pendant. She's got like a little star thingy with the circle around it, and she's telling me about, she told me about her abortion that she had. She told me about her ex-husband and all his stuff, and then she said that they agreed to be poly. I didn't know what that was. I had to wait and let her explain it. So they agreed to be poly. Well, I figured out it was when you date other people in the relationship. Well, surprise, surprise, their relationship didn't work out. He ended up leaving for the woman that he met, and now she's got 5 kids and they're divorced. And the guy that she was with got her pregnant, and then she ended up having that abortion, and now she's alone. So, whew, a lot to unpack there, okay? But would I ever take advice from her on my relationship? No. N-O. Okay? All right? Like, and look, guys, I'm just saying, like, the evidence is there. Okay? It's just there. Like, why do I have to explain this to anybody? Why do I have to explain that? But there are people in this society today, okay, who would be like, oh, that's not true. I mean, she has really good wisdom she could share. Yeah, on what not to do. On what not to do. I'm not going to listen to her when it comes to what a great man is because she hadn't found one yet. Okay? The man she was with ran off with the poly partner or whatever that person was called. I don't even know. And now she's got 5 kids. She's taken care of. That sucks. It's horrible. I mean, not horrible that she has 5 kids, but it's horrible that she's doing it alone. That's hard. That's hard, guys. That is sad. Now, granted, she did say that he was paying child support, so thank God for that. But, man, I wish that wouldn't have happened. For her and her kids, I wish that they could have worked through the things that were bad instead of running and trying to find it in other partners. And I'm saying, like, from a Christian viewpoint, do I think that they could have worked through it if they had God? Yeah, 100%. But unfortunately, they don't agree with that way of thinking. And she hates Jesus. Okay? So whatever. She's living her own life. She's living her best life. Okay? Now me, as a Christian, I'm going to just listen. If she wants my advice down the road, I will give it to her, but I will give it to her very, very gently. And I don't even know if I will even go that far because I don't know if she'll accept it. Because she has flat out told me that she hates Jesus Christ. And she made it very clear because we have another coworker who loves the Lord and she's got it all over her walls and everything. And she's mad about it. This girl was mad about it. She's like, I can't believe they allow that. And I'm just like, well, you know, freedom of religion. I'm just saying. But she's got Wiccan stuff all over her office and like little witch sticks and broomsticks and whatever. And she practices witchcraft. So it's like, you can't be mad about her believing in Jesus, but then want us to be okay with your witchcraft and not say anything, you know. And I haven't said anything, and neither has the other woman. We haven't said anything to her about that. Now, have I thought some things, wanted to say some things? Yeah, but, you know, the Lord's like, keep your mouth shut, Terry. Don't you dare say a word. You better be quiet. Keep your mouth shut. And I'm like, okay, God, I'm keeping my mouth shut. Oh, I'm smiling. And I'm just trying really hard to love her, you know. And I'm just like, I love you. As you say that you hate Jesus, I'm just going to pray for you, Mama. I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to pray for you and your kids. I'm going to pray that you guys have the best life, that your children's have lots of food, okay? And I'm just going to keep praying because that's all I can do. I don't know what else to do. By the way, if you guys, I don't know if you've ever had to deal with that, a coworker, you know, at work that hates God. And here's the thing. Every place I've ever worked, I have never brought up my religion, okay? Never brought up any of that stuff. People find me, and for some reason, they're like, bleh, here's my whole entire life. And they want me to like, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to say right now. I'm just going to go pray to God and ask that He fills me with the Holy Spirit. And maybe I can respond to this at a later time because I'm afraid I'm going to say something that's bad and I'm going to hurt your feelings. And you know, we have to be honest as Christians. We have to be the light and the salt. So we got to be able to give it to them. But sometimes we might be a little salty about it, okay? It's hard. It is hard. And I'm actually excited to be in this job, guys, because I was at that Christian job that I was working at before. And I felt like I was constantly being shamed or ridiculed or told how I wasn't Christianly enough or godly enough. You know, every now and then I might have a curse word slip out and I'm going to hell. And it's hard for me with Christians like that because I feel like there's nothing I can do to make them understand that I love Jesus, right? But with these people I'm around, I'm like, wow, okay. So I'm around so many different people, and like, I'm talking about so many different people, guys, and I have the opportunity to really show them the love of Christ. And I'm like, I'm not one of those people who's like shoving things down people's throats. And so I'm like interested to see how God can teach me and use me to talk to them, right? And I'm waiting on him to like, you know, fill me with the Spirit, and I'm sure it'll happen. So I'm just praying for that. I'm praying for God to use me. I have a lot of transgendered students, which I'm super shocked and surprised about. So I'm like navigating that territory and learning about these people, what they're going through. You know, I've got a lot of students who have battled with drug addiction and abuse and all sorts of different situations and scenarios. And then I see this really strong Christian lady that I work with who I absolutely love, okay? She's super hard. She's hard, man. And she is like, she dishes it to these students, but they love her. They love her. And I love her. I love her. Now, my coworker that's like, she doesn't want anything to do with Jesus. She can't stand her. She hates her, you know, and so I'm interested to see how this is going to play out. Like, I'm like, all right, this is like, woo, we got some tea going on here, guys. We're going to see what happens. But I'm interested. So we'll see if the Holy Spirit works, you know, in this place and that we can see some changes going on. I did have a transgendered student come to me and talk to me and express that they wanted to know more about Jesus, and that they were like, and I didn't bring it up, guys. They were talking about it with the teacher I work with, and he just happened to come up and start talking to me about it. Well, and I was like, okay, well, you know, like, this is how it is. And I just thought it was interesting. And like, the things that these people have been through, sometimes it's shocking. Like, I don't think we give human beings enough credit for the pain and suffering that they go through, and they still come out of it somewhat functioning, right? And I just think there's some real strength there, right? And we don't give enough credit. But I'm not going to judge. Okay? I'm not going to judge. I am going to love. I'm going to communicate. And I'm going to try to be wise, okay, in how I handle these situations. But anyways, I just want to clarify all that stuff with you guys, okay? And I'm sorry that I took another 30-something minutes to explain this to you. And that I put on my makeup after I was talking to you guys. But I'm going to go and do this stuff that I got to do. And I hope you guys have a wonderful night. I hope that life is treating you well, and that you are doing good, and that you are at peace. And I am going to pray that every single one of you, okay, is finding the things you need from our Lord and Savior. Now, some of you guys may not believe, okay, but you're here, so I'm going to go ahead and just say this. Jesus Christ loves you, okay? And I hope that you guys can find the peace and the truth and the way, the life, okay? I'm on that path as well. So, I love you guys. I'll talk to you later. I hope you have a great night.